She offered the black carpenter $1 million for one night, but he silently turned her down and walked away. There are people in this world who are rich in money, and then there are people who are rich in something else, something that cannot be counted, cannot be bought, and cannot be taken away. This is a story about one of those people. His name is not important. What is important is who he was. A carpenter. A black man from a small town in Georgia, USA. He grew up watching his father work with wood. Every morning, his father would wake up before the sun, pick up his tools, and go build something. Not because someone was watching, not because he wanted fame, just because that is what a man does. He works, he builds, he takes care of his family. The carpenter learned everything from his father. By the time he was in his 20s, he was already known as one of the best in the county. People would come from nearby towns just to see his work. He did not charge a lot. He did not try to become famous. He just did his job well and went home. He had a small shop. The sign outside said, "Fine carpentry. Honest work, honest price." That sign said everything about who he was. He lived in a simple house. He drove an old truck. He did not need much. He had peace, and for him, that was enough. One morning, he got a phone call. The voice on the other end was calm and professional. She said she was calling on behalf of a very wealthy woman, a widow who lived on a private island off the coast of South Carolina. This woman had seen the carpenter's work in a magazine. Someone had written about a mahogany library he built inside an old estate in Savannah. The photos were beautiful. The woman wanted him to come and restore the wooden panels and floors inside her large mansion. The carpenter asked about the job. It was real work, old wood that needed careful hands, damaged floors, a staircase that had been there for over 100 years. He gave a fair price. The woman agreed without any argument. He packed his tools into his old truck and drove 6 hours to the coast. When he arrived, he saw a mansion that most people only see in movies. It sat on a private island, reachable only by a small boat. The house was huge and white, with big columns and wide verandas that faced the ocean. Inside, it smelled like old wood and money. The woman of the house came to meet him herself. This surprised the staff. She was in her early 50s, well-dressed, beautiful in the way that comes from taking very good care of yourself. She had everything that money could buy. But if you looked closely, there was something behind her eyes, a kind of tiredness. Not physical tiredness, something deeper. The kind that comes from being surrounded by people who want something from you, every single day. She showed him the work that needed to be done. He looked at everything carefully, asked the right questions, took notes. He was professional. He was calm. He did not try to impress her. He treated the job like he treated every other job, with full attention and no drama. The next morning, he showed up at 7 in the morning and started working. Days passed, then weeks. He arrived early every day and left before evening. He ate his lunch outside, alone, on the steps of the veranda. He said good morning to the staff by name. He did not use his phone during working hours. He did not make small talk unless someone spoke to him first. He just worked. Now here is the part that the staff noticed, and talked about quietly among themselves. The woman of the house started changing her routine. She started waking up earlier. She started taking her breakfast on the veranda. The same veranda where the carpenter ate his lunch. She started finding small reasons to walk through the rooms where he was working. She would ask how things were going. She would offer him tea. She would linger a little longer than necessary. The old housekeeper, a woman who had worked for this family for over 30 years, watched all of this quietly. She had seen a lot of things in that house. She said nothing, but she noticed. One evening, the carpenter stayed late to finish a delicate section of the old staircase. The woman brought him a glass of sweet tea and sat nearby. This time, they actually talked. Not small talk, real talk. He told her about his father, about learning to read wood like a language, about how every piece of old timber has a story. She listened. Then she told him about her life, her late husband, who gave her everything except warmth. She said she had been alone for 6 years, not lonely in the way people think, just alone. He listened to all of it. He was kind. He did not take advantage of the moment. When the tea was done, he thanked her, picked up his tools, and went home. The final day arrived. The work was finished, and it was beautiful. The staircase looked like it had been born again. The floors breathed. The panels shone with a quiet dignity that matched the age of the house. He walked her through everything, explained what he had done, answered her questions. She wrote him a check for the full amount. He folded it and put it in his shirt pocket. Then she asked him to sit down for a moment. He sat. She did not waste words. She looked at him directly and said that she had been thinking about something for several weeks. She said she was a woman who had access to almost anything in the world. But there was one thing she could not seem to find: real company. Not the kind that comes with politics or favors. Just honest, genuine company. She said she had watched him work for weeks. She said she had never met a man who moved through a room with such quiet confidence. Who needed nothing. Who asked for nothing. Then she slid a piece of paper across the table. It was a bank transfer form. The amount written on it was $1 million. She told him the terms. One night. No staff. No cameras. No one would ever know. She said she was not embarrassed to ask. She said she believed in being direct about what she wanted. The room went very quiet. The carpenter looked at the paper. He read the number. He sat with it for a few seconds. Not in shock, not in anger, not in excitement, just quietly. Then he picked up the paper. He folded it back, exactly along the same crease it had come in on. He slid it gently back across the table toward her. He stood up. He picked up his toolbox. He looked at her, not with judgment, not with coldness, but with something that was harder to explain. A kind of steady, settled look. The look of a man who knows exactly who he is. He said, very simply and quietly, "Thank you for the work, ma'am." And he walked out. No speech, no lecture, no anger, no long explanation about values or morals. He did not make her feel small. He did not make a scene, he just walked away. She sat at that table for a long time after his truck disappeared down the ferry road. She was not crying, she was not angry. She was sitting with something she had not felt in a very long time. She could not name it right away. But later, when she thought about it, she realized what it was. Respect. Not for herself. She had always had people respect her money. This was different. This was the feeling of being in the presence of someone who could not be bought. And somehow, that felt more rare and more valuable than anything she had ever been able to purchase. The carpenter drove 6 hours home. He stopped at a small diner outside of Macon and ordered eggs and grits. He read the newspaper. He did not call anyone. He did not tell anyone what had happened. The next morning, he deposited the check and went back to work. He never told that story to anyone. Not his mother, not his pastor, not his closest friend. Some things, he believed, are between you and God. About 3 weeks later, the phone rang again. It was her assistant. The woman wanted to know if the carpenter would be interested in another project, not for her house this time, but for a children's library she wanted to build on the island. A free library, open to kids from the mainland who had never had access to books or a quiet place to sit and read. The carpenter thought about it for a moment. Then he said yes. That project took 2 months. He brought 2 young men from his town with him. Young guys who needed direction, who needed someone to believe in them. The woman paid for everything. She did not issue a press release. She did not invite journalists. She just funded it and let the work happen. The library opened on a Saturday in October. Children poured through the door. Some of them had never seen the ocean before. Now they were on an island, surrounded by water, in a room full of books built by hand. A local photographer took a picture that day. The carpenter is standing near the entrance, not looking at the camera. He is looking at a little girl who is running her hand along the wooden shelves with wide eyes. That photo later appeared in a small regional magazine. Someone shared it online. The caption said, "A carpenter built this library." It was not the whole story, but it carried the spirit of the truth. People wrote to his shop from across the country. The phone did not stop ringing for weeks. He hired more apprentices. He kept his prices honest. The sign outside still said, "Fine carpentry, honest work, honest price." And the woman? She never spoke about what had happened in that dining room. The old housekeeper, who had seen everything without being told anything, later told a close friend that she had not seen her employer look so at peace in many, many years. There was something that had shifted inside her, quietly, without announcement, the day that Carpenter walked out of her door. Sometimes it is not what someone gives you that changes you. Sometimes it is what they refuse. The carpenter never considered himself a hero. He never thought of that moment as a great sacrifice. To him, it was simple. There are things a man does, and things a man does not do. Not because someone is watching, not because he wants a reward, just because of who he is. His father had told him once, a man's hands should always be cleaner than his money. He had never forgotten that. And in a world where almost everything has a price, he had proven, quietly, without a single word of explanation, that some things simply do not.